we're gonna make banana bread because number one, like literally why not? And number two, I actually found these bananas in the back of my car. I accidentally left them there after a grocery run, and so we need to use them. This is not my recipe, so you know, just for credit purposes, I follow this food blogger, Half Baked Harvest, and I've followed her for years. This banana bread recipe is from her, and I'll tag her. But you can find it on her website. It's, you know, it's a free recipe that anybody can use. So while we make banana bread, we're actually going to talk about, it's actually meat inspection. We've got to grease our bread pan thing, lube it up, thoroughly greased and lubed. Obviously you need bananas. It calls for 4. Maybe we'll just 1, 2, 3. Maybe you should count 1, 2, 3. The reason why I want to talk about meat inspection is because I have been reading this book, and I will actually link it at the top of my linktree. So it's called Wage Theft in America. The author of this book actually has a section where they talk about meat inspection. So it definitely inspired me. I didn't have any meat, but I had these bananas, and so I thought, well, bacon, cooking, you know, it's all in the same family. This is smoke. Cheers. Piece of history that I found was this author named Upton Sinclair in 1905. And they described the working conditions of a meat packing warehouse in Chicago. Okay, next we need 1.5 cups of flour. This is what happens when you accidentally catch your kitchen towel on fire. Don't do that. He called on President Roosevelt to pass laws on the meatpacking industry and warehouses in regards to like sanitary conditions. So the very next year, President Roosevelt passed a law regarding sanitary conditions in the meatpacking industry, and soon after, federal inspections of meat began. We're just gonna eyeball this. So then in 1910, they started opening up federal research labs to advance the technology that was being used to inspect and test meat to ensure that it was free from diseases for the people to eat. I don't know how much it called for. We're just throwing some in. So all of these facts are from the USDA website or from the National Library of Medicine. Measure with your heart, as they say. My heart's big. Number one, what the hell does that have to do with wage theft? Because that's what I talk about on my channel. But number two, you might be thinking, how many people actually suffered from like meat-borne diseases, if you will, prior to meat inspections? So according to the CDC, in 1900, for every 100,000 people, 100 people suffered from typhoid fever. And in 1900, there was approximately 73 million people in the United States. Oh, 76 million. I stand corrected. So in 1900, it was 100 for every 100,000 that were suffering from typhoid fever. By 1920, it was about 33 per 100,000 people that was suffering from typhoid fever. And by 1950, it was down to about 1.7 per 100,000 people. So that's a really drastic decrease in just 50 years, which is arguably not that long. So they, really decreased the number of people that were suffering from this disease. And you also have to think that the population of the United States was continuing to grow in those 50 years as well. So the fact that they managed to decrease the total number of people suffering from typhoid fever while the population was increasing is a really big achievement. We're gonna pop it in. We're also going to make some cinnamon butter. I know you're all fascinated about meat inspections. What if employers were required to have their payroll records inspected? I did some research and it seems that the USDA currently requires at minimum for food facilities to be inspected every 3 years. But if you're found to not be in compliance, then that can result in follow-up inspections. And this wouldn't be just a one-time inspection of like that day or that week's payroll records. If you're doing an inspection every 3 years, for example, you would go back and look at 3 years of payroll records. I think you could also sprinkle in some surprise inspections where an inspector could show up at your business and ask for your payroll records, and you would have to immediately provide them for inspection, because they can see a situation where an employer that knows that this is happening every 3 years would, fudge their payroll records in order to hide wage theft. So how do we take this meat packing example, tweak it, and apply it elsewhere? Knowing that there's no perfect solution, but maybe this could help seriously diminish the number of employers committing wage theft, to their employees. Measure with our heart: cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, ginger. And then it says you're supposed to beat it. I don't really want to beat it, mostly because I don't want to get my mixer out and I don't want to wash it. I just was thinking about it, and again, the author of the Wage Theft in America book that I've been reading mentioned it as well. So this is not necessarily an original idea, but if employers can't be trusted to pay their workers fairly, equitably, on time, in full, without stealing from them, without illegal deductions, paying their taxes, etc., then clearly we have to step in with a more serious enforcement method. And we have to increase the consequences as well for employers that are found to be non-compliant. That is also part of the issue. So just like speeding, for example, you get caught every couple of years, you get a ticket, you pay it, you move on, because the odds of getting caught are super low. So it doesn't incentivize you to stop speeding, and wage theft is really the same way. But if there was a radar on every single street, where if I'm caught just speeding even once, the odds are really high that I would get a ticket, and then therefore if I'm a serial speeder, I would get a lot of tickets, then that could really motivate me to not speed. Ha! Still steaming. does look like my chocolate chips like fell to the bottom though. If you look at that, you'll see like all the chocolate chips are down at the bottom. We've got our cinnamon butter that we made earlier. So good. Thanks for joining me while I made banana bread. But yeah, I just wanted to obviously make banana bread with you guys, but also to, you know, pose this thought idea to you guys as a possible solution to wage theft and just kind of open it up for discussion. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear what you guys think we should do to help solve the wage theft epidemic, and maybe I'll cook or bake for you guys again sometime. So thanks.